Alright, we're back everybody. It's good to see you guys, and Happy New Year. It is January 1st. It's been a second since I last recorded, but we're now back. I was feeling a little under the weather, but we're recovered and ready to go. Excited to record this video that I wanted to record a while ago. It is the rerun of the Miracle on District 20 event. 2 new egos were added to the game, the Christmas Nightmare Gregor, as well as Christmas Nightmare Ishmael, 2 very, very cute skins, or cute egos. So let's get started here. I'm going to go ahead and review them. This time around, we have numbers actually, because usually when I review these skills or the egos, I do them when they reveal the skills, and so it's no numbers, no values. But now that we have the values in the game, it's easier for me to discern whether or not it's actually a good ego for you to get. So I will recommend to you to get them or not get them based on what we see here today. So here we go. Starting with the Ishmael one, we're going to click into the Ishmael. Whoops, sorry. And I have the Tremor team up right now because these are both Tremor support. Both of them have Tremor Burst. Both of them have ways to apply Tremor. And so most likely you're going to apply this to a Tremor team. It has a little bit of sinking support inside as well. But this sinking is mainly a bonus. You'll see as we get into it. But let's go ahead and click into the first one, which is going to be the Ishmael, the He Ego Christmas Nightmare Ishmael, and it is technically a season 5. Yeah, even though it is a rerun for the event that was seasons ago, it is part of this season. The cozy bed, as you can see, it's a gorgeous picture, by the way. Amazing. Love the boogeyman, monster under the bed aesthetic. And here we go. It is fatal to... Oops, sorry. It is fatal to Wrath and Lust, and pretty decent across the board everywhere else. Resources-wise, it is going to require 4 Sloth, 1 Glut, 2 Pride, which is great because Zwei Ishmael does fund this by herself. I mean, granted, she has no Sloth, but everyone, the Tremor team has Sloth. Everyone and their mother does. And she herself has a Glut on S3 as well as Pride on S1, and so very, very easy to self-fund, and you're going to be using her skills as well. So easy way to self-fund, very, very accessible ego, which is very important for an ego that you might want to be spamming. But let's take a look at the stats. 12 base power, 5 coin, up to 2 coins, so 22 top roll, not terrible. Offense level 46. Yeah, the 22 top roll, it's not terrible, but it's not something that you can write home about. Nothing crazy. It is a 3 attack weight, which could be crazy depending on how the skill pans out. Overall, I mean, obviously there's Ishmael has many other egos that roll much higher, but it could just be the fact that you don't really want to clash with this ego too much, and her power is going to be in somewhere else. Let's take a look. If the target is less than 0 SP, deals 1% more damage up to 45%. So at negative 45% SP on the enemy, she will do the most damage. So you kind of want to hit them as they're lower and lower on sanity. Let's take a look. The 4 attack gains resonance, highest resonance plus 5 tremor count on self, up to 10. Fantastic for Zwei Ishmael, because Zwei Ishmael does have on her S3 the ability to consume her own count and then inflict it onto the enemy up to 20, which is going to be this is a great ego for fueling her S3 as well. Another way for her to access self tremor, which is going to be great for her kit. So this is I mean, honestly, very, very cool. And then very, very good before attack passive. After attack, if the target is staggered, low morale, or panic state, heals 10 SP. Okay, so after the attack, if they've become staggered, low morale, or panic state, or they were when you started, you will also refund half of the sanity cost, which is nothing to scoff at either, because if you're going to be spamming egos, the sanity cost does add up as well. And so costing only 10 SP if you're using it at the right time is very, very big. Take a look at the first hit. Inflicts plus 5 tremor count, which is great. Anyone that can apply count is good in my books, and Zwei Ishmael has a great way to apply count as well. So great first on-hit effect there. On-hit, if the target isn't staggered, low morale, or panic states, inflict 5 sinking. So a little bit of bonus. Not really sinking support anyway. 5 potency for sinking is not crazy. It's mainly just like a little, you know, and a little extra. It's like, oh, you know, to help you get there. You know, plus they take SP damage. I see. So basically they want you to kind of, it applies the 5 sinking, and then it'll hit a number of times, and then you'll make them sink further, right? Because what you want to do by the end, you want them to at least be staggered low morale or panic. So if they're close, this could put them under, right? Given that it hits. On hit, if the target isn't staggered low morale or panic state, triggers Tremor Burst twice and then reduces the target's tremor count by 2. Interesting. Okay, so you actually don't want to use this. You don't want to use this when they are staggered low morale or panicked. You want to use it when they're just about to be, you know, or you want them to, you know, you're going to get them there with this skill, and you want to pop Tremor Burst twice. Because if they are staggered low morale or panicked, at the end you heal 10 SP after attack. So during attack, before attack, you want them to be not staggered low morale or panicked, so that you can get Tremor Burst twice. It's huge, right? 3 Tremor Burst, because you have another one right here on the second hit. So for 3 counts, you get 3 Tremor Burst, and then so it goes Tremor positive, plus 2 Tremor. And it's attack wave 3, so it's gonna hit 9 Tremor Burst if all 3 targets, you know, or all 3 parts here you hit are not staggered low morale or panicked, and then you get your SP back if they are afterwards. So you want to use this skill to make them staggered low morale or panicked, and the sinking is gonna help as well. Plus Tremor Burst is gonna help for sure. And so honestly, like overall, very very solid corrosion wise. Let's take a look at the corrosion. Obviously indiscriminate. If they are staggered low morale panic state, base power plus 2. Oh, okay. Before attacks, gain highest resonance. Okay, count. Before attack, heal 10 as HP. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of, you know, extra bonus. A little bit of, you know, top off the gravy, so to speak. After attack, heal 5 SP for every enemy that is staggered. Okay. So it could be up to a 15 sanity heal. If everyone hit, oh no, sorry, not 15 sanity, 25 sanity heal if everyone ends up being staggered low morale panicked by the end. That's this goes sanity positive. That's amazing. Okay, cool. Inflicts 5 tremor count, fantastic, love to see it. If they aren't staggered low morale panicked, inflicts 5 sinking and 2 count, so it's even more so than before. And then if the target isn't staggered, tremor applies the Tremor Burst and then burst again. So 2 bursts as per usual, and then burst, and then burst. So it's 2 bursts guaranteed, and then another additional 2 if they weren't staggered low morale panicked before. So this is a great ego to get them from not staggered to staggered, or not low morale panicked into the panic state. Fantastic, dude. I mean, it's a very very efficient ego. Very, very efficient in the passive. Allies gain +1 more tremor count from skill or coin effects. Oh, so this is self-tremor support. I don't think most of the characters right now in the base tremor team have self-tremor. Like you usually actually use self-tremor. Yeah, most of them don't use too much self-tremor. I mean, granted, mostly just Ishmael and a few others. So self-tremor, it is kind of just like a little gravy passive for sure. If the ally's target is staggered low morale panic, gain 2+2 more instead. I think Divi does this as well, has a self-tremor as well. Inflict does not stack with ego gifts or identical effects. Cool. Okay. So a little bit of gravy for self-tremor teams. We don't have like all of the self-tremor in the world, but it is great to get just a little bit extra. I mean, granted, the skill itself, the actual attack itself is very solid, and it is very accessible for Zvi Ishmael. Overall, I would say very, very solid. Very, very solid ego. I think if you're running a tremor team, if you have a tremor team you want to build, and it is, I think, her only tremor ego, I believe. Yeah, it is. It is like her only real tremor ego, so it's a great way for her to get into the party while, you know, when everyone else is using effervescent and then your your Divi Honglu is using Cavernous Wailing. This is a great, way to get another slice of the pie, another couple of Tremor Bursts. And then if you use the Indiscriminate, the 25%, 25 SP heal, it's nothing to be laughing at, right? Because you always get it. As long as they are staggered, low morale or panicked at the end of this corrosion effect, you get the 5 SP heal for every character hit. That's 5 attack weight. Very, very hefty. 18 minus 5, minus 5, minus 5. It's 45. Okay, fantastic. So definitely want to use this, not for clashing, but for just the big damage output. Because it is, a lot of bursting. If you can get all the bursts off, 4 times 5, 20 bursts. Yeah, I mean, that's the dream, obviously. Like, you're not going to get 20 bursts off all the time, but it is the dream and very, very solid. Does Ishmael need it? Not necessarily, but, a great ego to have. Plus a little bit gravy as well for self-tremor gaining. And so overall, I would say this ego, taking a look at it, maybe a 7 or 8 out of 10. Definitely worth considering if you're going to be rerunning a Tremor team. They're very, very, above average recommendation. Not necessary. I would say something like Honglu's, Cavernous Wailing is like a necessary ego. Or obviously Fluid Sac is not necessary for Tremor, but Fluid Sac is highly overpowered. And so if this is a 10, I would say this is maybe a 7. Nothing crazy, nothing this is game breaking, but very, very solid, very, very good skill to have for a Tremor team. Now let's take a look at the problem child. Oh, Gregor. Gregor is in a weird spot right now for this ego, because Gregor's really only Tremor ID is Rose Spanner Workshop. And Rose Spanner Workshop isn't the best Tremor ID you could possibly field. And so most of the time, he's on the bench. Most of the time you're going to be using him on the bench for, just a passive skill. Just to have him around, just in case, maybe you lose a guy and you field him for a second. But it is going to be his ego. It is a he ego, Christmas Nightmare. Look, let's see. So, 2. I mean, obviously, you could also run this possibly with a... The problem is, right, it's if you want to run him in a sinking team with the little bit of sinking support that it has, you probably will, you'll probably want to run Solemn Lament instead, because it being a he ego, it contradicts, it fights for that slot, and so it's going to be a little bit harder for sure. Maybe Gregor's going to get another Tremor ID, at least a 3-star one coming soon to fix this issue and maybe synergize with Christmas Nightmare, right? But as of right now, no real great options to use this for just yet, as the recording of this video. But let's take a look at the rest of it here. 2 Sloth, 2 Glut, 2 Gloom, 2 Pride. The classic, the Gregor classic, just 2 across the board. Gregor loves that. 12 base, 4 coin, hitting about a 20. The 41 offense level. Interesting. Is it because the guy's hitting level's low? Okay, anyway. If the target is less than 10%, is than 0 SP, deal up to 45% damage. Okay, same as Ishmael's skill. After attack, at max HP, heal 15 at turn end, and gain 1 attack power next turn. So if you're topped up and healthy, I mean, this will refund basically all the sanity cost, which is not nothing, but chances are right now, as of right now, the ego, I mean, the ID that he has doesn't really lend necessarily to that. It doesn't really have any self-healing per se. But I guess, if your other teammates have healing, you can definitely get away with it as well. As you can see, this is kind of like an all over the place ID. And so, nothing crazy, but it is a 5 attack weight as well. So it's a lot of bursting probably. Inflicts 5 tremor potency, nice. And then inflicts burst. So it is a -1 as of the first hit. And then the second hit heals 3 plus highest resident percent of the missing HP on self. Okay, it's a self heal, which is gonna, like, ideally you're like topped up or almost topped up, and then this heal will get you there, right? That's kind of like the idea, is that you want to, like, I mean, up to 30% SP heal is not terrible, right? First skill. It's a little bit of sinking to help you. It doesn't have that clause, or it does. If the target is staggered, low morale, or panic state, inflicts attack power down. And fragility against the affinity with the highest. Okay, cool. So this is a fragility applier, which is great. I love fragility. It's one of my favorite debuffs in the game because it makes your damage number go high. Big number go, you know, big number go bang. Let's go. Not terrible. It's not like, this is kind of a middling ego in my opinion, based on like what I see. It's nothing crazy. I think they definitely could have made the coin power a little bit higher, the clashing a little bit better. Although granted, it's supposed to be an ID that you're using when they can't really fight back, because you get benefits for when they aren't staggered, low morale, or panicked, and inflicts power down. So it's a good debuff applier. Seems to be in Gregor's wheelhouse. Let's take a look at the corrosion. 22 -6 -6. Could as low as a 10 if you're not careful. If you're healthy. Offense level 42, not terrible. 5 attack weight as per usual. Indiscriminate as per usual. The damage stays, so 45% extra damage at the low on SP. Heals 10 on self before the attack, and then after the attack at max HP heals 20, so it fully refunds as well. So both of these egos fully refund themselves if the conditions are met on the corrosion, which is fantastic. Applies 5 tremor and then a tremor burst. Only one, huh? Only one tremor burst. It goes tremor -1 on this skill. If you use both of this one and the Ishmael one together, you're going to be going tremor positive +1 based on these, you know, what you see. But if you use both corrosions, you're going to go like tremor neutral. On hit, heals missing HP on self. So a good way to self heal, actually. You might actually just even use this for the self heal. If you're a character that needs to, you know, keep yourself topped up. It's a good kind of an option to have if you have the ability to fund it. Granted, I think right now, if you look at Rose Spanner, it does have Gloom and it does have Glut, but you'll need someone else to cover your Pride and Sloth, which is a little bit awkward. Let's see. Inflicts 4 sinking. Sorry. Inflicts 4 sinking. The target is staggered. It applies deck power -2. Oh, and 2 fragility against it. Affinity. Okay. Overall, nothing crazy, but there is some merit to it. Insomniac Knight, the passive combat start attack against all enemies, inflicts 1 offense level down or 1 defense level down to all enemies. Is it like a random? Okay, number of enemies in the staggered low morale. Okay, oh, I see. So all enemies this many times. So at the combat start, you actually, so unlike the Ishmael one, which you want to use to get them staggered, you actually want to use Christmas Nightmare when they already are, so that you can get the benefits of this. I mean, this is just like at all times, right? At all times at the combat start. I mean, this is not terrible, right? This is a pretty good passive, actually. A pretty great passive to have. In fact, it does not stack with you, I guess. Honestly, a solid passive. Overall, I would say, yeah, looking at Cozy Bed, it's a cute little art as well. You can see the monster on the bottom, the crab version, or like the, you know, the insectoid version of the monster, since it is Gregor. Decent spread. I mean, overall, I would say, looking at the way this is a tough one. This is a tough one because right now, given what characters we have and given like what it does, I could really only give this ego like 4 or 5 out of 10. It definitely is not required to run a Tremor team because as of right now, we're not really fielding Gregor on the Tremor team, but The self-heal is something to be considered. If you like find that you use Gregor, if Gregor is your guy and you need to, you know, find a way to self-heal, Gregor could find it in Christmas Nightmare, right? Because it has a heal on the second hit. Granted, this is an ego you also don't want to use to clash. It is only strictly a damaging ego, and it does have some decent damage, modifiers. Plus 45% damage is not 0. Plus it applies fragility, so it increases the damage output of the rest of your team as well. So you could actually find this slotted into, actually, ironically, not a Tremor team, because it only bursts one time and applies 5 potency, it applies 4 sinking, and then a lot of other debuffs. So this is kind of more like an all-rounder, to contest with, maybe you don't want to use AEDD, maybe you don't want to roll 27, just have like a 27 beat stake. Maybe you don't, necessarily want to use Solemn Lament because you have no purpose for Butterfly in your team. This is like the ego to, this is like the other option other than AED. DD. So overall, not terrible, but not required for anything, and certainly not required for Tremor team as well. And so I would say, in terms of should you pull or dispense, I would say no. So the two egos, here, Christmas Nightmare, Gregor, and Ishmael, I would say Ishmael is a considerable to dispense if this is what you like, and she's cute, obviously. And then Gregor is, I would say only advisable to dispense if he's your waifu husbando, If he's your waifu husbando, whatever you want to call him, then considerable. Or if you need like an option, I would say like not really worth particularly dispensing. But overall these two solid additions. Nothing crazy, but I think it's like fine for not every new ego to, everyone complains, right? I think it's like the oxymoron. Everyone complains. They're like, oh, if the ego's too weak, then we riot. If the ego's too strong, then we riot. It's like a hard balance to hit, right? Like you can't make every player happy. But I think overall this like fills a spot in both of these characters' rosters. And so, not mad about these two, but worth dispensing? Not particularly. I mean, obviously it gives you some bonuses during the event as well, a 40% increase in the drop rate, but you don't really need that, realistically, right? Plus, if you just play through the event, you get the other two egos as well, and then one of them is a 40%, one of them is 20%. That's like basically enough. But if you have these two as well, you'll be breezing through the event when you slot all 4 of them in. But overall, nothing crazy. I would say Gregor is like a 5 out of 10 for should you dispense or pull, and then Ishmael is like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for should you dispense. Not terrible. All right, peace.